Whatever is taking place in Venezuela is an issue for Venezuelans. It is not necessarily an issue for the United States to instigate itself in that country. And we've been doing that. And any honest, appraisal of whatever is taking place in Venezuela has to accept that a superpower has essentially made it its mission to destabilize and undermine the governments and even the societal structure itself of that country. And unless that's taken into account, it's not being an honest, portrayal of what's
absolutely. Well, and one note in response to that, the framing of this, do you or do you not support intervention? I really despise the way that's framed, because the impression is always, one, that the U.S. government actually cares what we think
right.
on these issues, and two, even more than that, this presupposition ignores the fact that the intervention is happening.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you support it or not. So whether or not you support it is irrelevant. What are you doing to oppose it is the real question. A lot of people on the left have taken this, proxy on both their houses approach. Like, they're both equally bad. Like, yes, I oppose U.S. intervention in any country, X country, but that global South dictator is a cartoon villain. I mean, I recently joked, this is the same thing. And is people who say, well, I'm not racist, but it's the same thing. I oppose U.S. military intervention, but this person is a horrible dictator and needs to be deposed.
Sanders. Yeah. Sanders did that. I ripped him because I was like, you're waffling on this. Like, you're doing this thing of, he's a horrible, brutal, authoritarian dictator, but the United States should know better than intervening in countries. It's like, why are you giving him the first premise? Like, why even give him the first premise where you have to defend the second premise? You know what I mean? It's like, if you're arguing about that, argue about the first premise before you even get to that conversation of whether or not you should intervene.
Yeah, exactly. And the point is, we have this really weird American understanding of politics where it's based on this myth that we live in some democratic society where we say, well, which policy do you support? And if you support it, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. No, it doesn't matter if we support it. These policies are already happening. So the question is not, do you support it? The question is, what are you doing about it? Yeah. Are you opposing it actively, or are you saying you don't agree with it? Those are two different things. And this comes down to the question of fighting any injustice, fighting sexism, fighting racism, fighting capitalism, any of these. It doesn't matter if you say, okay, well, I oppose sexism, racism, capitalism. Okay, fine. But what are you doing to fight sexism, racism, capitalism? So you can't just say, I oppose intervention. No, how are you actually opposing it? It's not a matter of just articulating your political views. And that's why we need to have an understanding that exposing what's actually happening, showing what's actually happening on the ground. And then, I mean, I'm not really an organizer, I'm a journalist, but people have different roles. But the most important thing of all is people organizing. And we need people to actually organize and revive anti-war and anti-interventionist movements. Like we had to an extent. I mean, it was never strong in the US, but we certainly had at the time of the Iraq War. If people say they oppose this Trump-led regime change, this Trump-led coup in Venezuela or any other country, what are they doing about it? Are they going to organize? Because that's what we need.